right up the top of Chinese solo queue for a long time. Maybe he needs to justify that hype and show us that he's moved with the meta and has something good and something strong to play.
Maybe, but we are into Champ Select now. As you can see, Coach Hoon there for World Elite, making sure he gets all the picks and bans in for his team. That's going to have to do well here, because I said World Elite not look that great in drafts so far, but Alistar, Azir, Kalista, World Elite's first 3 bans, and M3, Nunu, and the Scion, so still respect there for Aluka, the train driver, with 1 more to come.
Yeah, 5 games, 5 bans of Scion. It's actually never been available to pick. The only player in the whole of the LPL drawing Scion bans. So many nerfs come through to that champion. Still, you respect the fact it's the train driver. It's the fact that he uses the ultimate so well that makes him unique. We've seen a lot of hilarious misplays with that unstoppable onslaught, but Aluka, he makes dreams happen.
And I like this from M3, banning Cassiopeia. Very standard mid lane bans, keeping the Azir and Cassiopeia out once one of them eats the first ban.
And leaving up LeBlanc, because at this point, it feels like M3 have the tonic for LeBlanc, even though it's one of Gia's strongest champions.
Yeah, Dada with that Vladimir counterpick surprised us in week 1 with it, but I don't know if anybody wants to, I guess take their chance and pick it. Rek'Sai being open is the most obvious thing to me, but plenty of picks here for World Elites first.
Honestly, start with the Rek'Sai. Go for a strong ganking jungler. You have your choice of other options. It looked like they might actually look to the support role and empower Conan with a strong support, with Thresh being considered. I think whatever happens, World Elite, I mean, locking in the Vladimir might actually be a consideration just to see what Dade would choose to pick into it. Of course, Xerath is the only other champion he's really shown that's not been banned away. And his Xerath was their only loss of the season. Wasn't necessarily the smartest time to pick Xerath, but M3 going to start with lots of comfort. It was Lupa that debuted, starting Flask, not taking any potions, going for that first camp, then picking up a big item. Of course, you don't always have to pigeonhole yourself into a weak level 1 and no potions, but it's just something flexible that Lupa was savvy to pick up.
Yeah, Lupa's, again, his performance on meta champions has looked great in the Hecarim. Going to get locked in for him once again here, Condi. Considering the Rek'Sai, hard to let Rek'Sai go.
But this duo has done a lot of winning. Not 100% win rate together, but Sivir and Hecarim have so much synergy. Just on simple terms, Hecarim's passive, of course, scaling from move speed, but it just helps your team get into the backline. 18-5 is already a monstrous win rate. Just this split for Sivir, that's a whole lot of Sivir pastry time. Great synergy between these two. Obviously, there's lane choices, like you can always opt into the Jinx for what will be a difficult laning phase, but most teams, on balance, have been getting through that quite comfortably.
Yeah, and I said, don't give away the Rek'Sai, but I think this duo might be something worth to give it back over to World Elite. And Spirit is at least hovering it. It'd be a perfectly fine pick, probably the best jungler left in the pool. Gragas up there as well, so there are some considerations, but World Elite, they've already locked in the Nar for Aluka, and Spirit is going to take Rek'Sai.
There was a bit of mind games involved here. If you have Thresh and you take Sivir, suddenly you're thinking, okay, Jinx, but then Jinx as a no-escape champion, very risky to take into Thresh. The Death Sentence often will live up to his name and spell the end for Jinx. So kind of pressured into taking the Sivir. They give up the Rek'Sai. It's such a game of tug of war, the pick and ban at the moment. There's no first pick champion. You could argue maybe Alistar, Kalista, who hasn't been seeing much play, but there isn't a lot of first pick champions available on the Rift. And it's been a lot of giving something and getting something. And where the push and shove goes and ends up, we don't often know at the end of Champ Select, but right now, fairly even across the board.
It is an M3. Not too much longer there. They are going to take away Gragas for Condi. Again, very strong jungler right up there with Rek'Sai. And Nautilus here for Love City. Another hook champion that's seen just a lot of popularity. And with Sivir, works a treat.
And basically, it's a pseudo-Alistar with Alistar not available in the pool. Good for turret diving, lots of CC. Provides a very same role. Often we see Nautilus picked against Alistar just to neutral a lot of what makes Alistar a unique champion. So 4 strong champions on the red side, and we're just seeing what World Elite will go for. It looks like it's going to be pretty safe, but at least strong lanes. Nah, very strong laner, will be able to boss around the Hecarim. Orianna going to be a competitive laner against whatever's picked most likely. So it should be a situation where Spirit doesn't have to be ganking for losing lanes and might actually be empowered to show us that carry potential we all know he has.
Yeah, Mystic even considered the Jinx there, which again has looked great with their Thresh, but takes the safer pick of Lucian here once again to be able to get out from under Hecarim. That's maybe the big thing that's keeping him away from the champion. But solid across the board here. Nar splits most of his lanes. Lucian definitely gets ahead or splits most of his lanes, and Orianna neutral across the board when it comes to those sort of things. So again, I do agree that Spirit's been empowered in this draft, which is very important for how World Elite wants to play. But Dade locks in LeBlanc, one of his big picks from last season.
Not quite a self-counter pick, but definitely a skill matchup coming that might slightly favor the Orianna, especially if she takes Cleanse for that added security. Dade's trying to throw the wrench in the works of the very solid team comp that World Elite have put together, only a one-sided mid lane matchup would actually put Spirit on the back foot. So just trying to boss around Orianna, I would not be surprised to see Condi Fang a couple of visits to the mid lane to get that LeBlanc rolling, because if she doesn't, honestly, World Elite, they've got a strong late game, they've got strong laning phase. It's the sort of game where World Elite, if they play to their strengths, should be able to accumulate a lot of early objectives and just take this game away from M3 unless, and it's a big unless, but it's always a big if when it comes to LeBlanc performance, Dade goes off on that LeBlanc.
Yeah, I mean, Dade's done it already. Can see if he can do it again. Aluka, though, versus Lupa. Nah, Hecarim in the top side. Spirit back on Rek'Sai versus Condi's Gragas. So far, so good. Standard picks across the board. Even LeBlanc, not that unusual with Xie on the Orianna.
It's just very even across the board. It's very similar power spikes. The only real difference is, again, Orianna hits her power spike 2-3 items in. LeBlanc much stronger at a 1-item power spike, whether you go for the Athenes or the Merlinomicon. So the mid is the only real question mark. Of course, games can go either way, but at least in terms of the picks and bans, much more solid from Team World Elite. And it looks like they're going to be competitive after really picking themselves into a hole 4 times out of 4.
Yeah, solid from both sides. Again, it's just very controlled, very safe drafting for both teams, and they're going to let their laners do the talking for the most part, which is very exciting given some of these matchups.
And that should usually be a given, but it hasn't been the case for the previous 4 World Elite games. That's why I'm excited to see how do they do in a more standard situation where you don't have excuses like, okay, we mispicked, okay, maybe the coach gave us wrong priorities. This is even across the board. That's what makes it so exciting.
Well, we'll find out just how even as we're about to get straight onto the Rift. And welcome back onto the Rift. As Xie and Dade are going to have an auto-attack fight. Orianna, bit uneven as far as fights go there, but M3 versus World Elite, game number 1 is here.
Yeah, aggression is what we expect from Dade. Aggression is what we saw. Ate a couple of autos, maybe a Q. Sorry, actually a skilled E, so just some auto attacks. But the Clockwork wind-up doing work. Condi and Spirit also getting very cozy in the jungle. We're just waiting to see. We're expecting standard lanes, we're expecting standard rotations, but there's always a potential curveball in the LPL.
Yeah, pretty shallow wards so far for both teams, so no one's stacking up to get that deep vision, but plenty of good knowledge across the board for all of these teams here. And as far as pathing goes for either Gragas or Rek'Sai, nothing they really have to be wary of. And I think everyone's, again, finding their lanes as well. So maybe Loop is the one they want to get away just to make that smite a bit better, but I think even he's finding the 1v1.
They just want to get tabs on Loop, but that's the big thing about the invade. They tried to go for a very aggressive ward to potentially see whether he started on those Raptors. Won't be able to see that yet. Loop is considering his options, doesn't know whether to expect stand lanes, because as you mentioned, they don't have any aggressive vision. No one's been spotted out just yet, but Looper looks like the Krugs are going to be his starting point.
Yep, that's where he's going to start things off. Fist mites away the Krug and going to take it away. And you can see, you mentioned it in Champs, like just the flask there to start things off. So going to go back and get himself a nice early landing item, probably cloth armor.
Luke at this point still doesn't know if the freeze is necessary. So of course initiates the freeze. Same story in the bottom lane. SMLZ, they've got the Gromp here. So you're going to have to wait to see watch this bot lane, see if Mystic and Conan respect what could be a very fast level 2.
And Mystic loves to level 2 all in people. It was one of the strengths of their bottom lane in the latter half of the season. You can see Mystic going to use that early harass damage on the Q because Love City just ate a whole lot of poke.
Cloth armor is the first purchase. No potions being able to pick up, but still going to be so useful against Aluka on this now. He's going to be looking for a lot of auto attacks. Not one of Aluka's strongest champions is the Na. Obviously forced to play those meta picks, but not really known for his carry potential. 2 is hit, and Conan takes a little burst of damage.
Yeah, you can see Woodley getting slightly zoned here, but playing very safe in SMLZ. Not zoning too aggressively. Maybe afraid of eating a Threshold here with Spell Shield probably not leveled up. So Woodley are going to let the wave push into the bottom side and take it out. But Xie doing a nice job of keeping in a good spot as Dade's already off on a walk.
Yeah, but with him being so far down lane, Dade can do these things where he just cheats out of lane, threatens potentially the red side jungle. Getting a couple of trades in, but Orianna should be very safe. Skilled that command protect at level 1, so it's just looking to get through the laning phase.
I can't remember which matchup it was, but I remember Pawn on Twisted Fate doing a similar thing, just standing as far parallel to the wave as he possibly could, basically so they didn't get zoned. Xie wants to keep his ball on the creep wave anyway, so Dade's like, all right, I'm just going to stand completely to the side of it.
They're getting in the experience range, picking up last hits with auto attacks, but also it just threatens potential. When you see Dade cheating towards the red side jungle of World Elite, you're not sure. Is Condi behind him? Are they looking to invade onto Spirit? Suddenly Spirit's feeling a little bit aggressed on when he's picking up the Raptors or just working on his red side jungle. So the mind game's there, very smart. And just look, if anything, will help Master3 whether Gragas is there or not.
Yeah, I like the Flask in this matchup as well for Dade, but we'll see what happens in mid lane as things develop. Spirit going to take away his red buff relatively easily there on the Rex, so keeps nice and healthy in the jungle. Pretty similar to Gragas, actually. And not that much action early on. Lupa keeping nice control of the wave is probably the biggest thing, because Aluka at some point is expected to get ahead in this matchup. And
the only thing to take away is this, because he wasn't forced to spend 105 gold on 3 potions, more effective items completed for Master3 early in the game. Theoretically, Hecarim, who takes a long time to get going whatever the builds are, probably Cinderhulk, Trinity Force, it's going to be an early Ninja Tabi to deal with Nah. You have a very high item floor to be relevant. Just being able to get a completed item that earlier, even if it only takes away, say, 2.5, 3 minutes from your timings, it's a relevant statistic.
Yeah, and it's a great item for lane as well. Spirit is coming to the bottom side, trying to get him, but just takes a Lantern out as couldn't quite line up an Unburrow there.
And not quite the same angle you have when you're trying to do a similar gank in the top lane, unfortunately. So couldn't get the Unburrow. Dada using the Flask as you expected. I didn't actually notice it, but in this lane, when you're going to take a lot of auto attack, harass, whatever you do, probably a smart, astute pickup as Condi is waiting to see if Orianna finally leaves the safety of her turret.
We'll have to see if Shie both summoners up here. Cleanse especially going to make this a bit tricky. Dade trying to line up a chain, but Condi, I think, realizing that a little too safe there on the Orianna. Just going to make sure Dade's okay, and then back towards the dragon. Probably doing Scuttle Crab.
I think Condi understands that pre-6 they don't have really any kill pressure, but if they can blow Orianna's flash, suddenly Dragon becomes a very realistic objective for Master3 to pick up. They have an assertive mid laner who does good damage. They have Gragas who does excellent damage to neutrals with that Drunken Rage. So if they can get the flash down, one of the summoner spells, that'd be enough. That'd be a successful gank. And after level 6, the Gragas ultimate really changes this lane matchup anyway. You cannot cleanse the displacement that comes from the explosive cuts.
No, but Dada eats a big chunk of damage here in a trade, so forced to go back. Shie going to do the same here as he clears out the wave under his turret, so going to be fairly similar gold values for the mid laners. Dade back, he's got a chalice and his boots now, and looks to be exactly the same. No, an amp tome for Shie instead. He gave it up.
Top lane's still the big story, Pastry time. Rek'Sai actually showing up though.
Spirit trying to get something done, but Lupa just activates his E and runs away. In Spirit, that's 2 ganks now, and unsuccessful both times, unfortunately.
But Lupa winning in CS, now he's CS behind, but still with the clumped up minion wave, is winning in CS. This is what happens when we're not talking about a super experienced Nah player in the top lane. Aluka not the best at really punishing enemy top laners. If that allows Lupa free farm, the late game's looking better and better for Master3.
Yeah, I mean, Aluka, sorry, really is just a quintessential tank player here, and I actually like him on Nah for that reason, because that's his role in a team fight, right? It's get initiated on, use your big ultimates. He does have experience in that particular role, as Conan eats a hook there from Love City. Very nicely placed to get a good trade down.
It's nice kill pressure, or at least putting on kill pressure, but what I'm thinking about top is, although Nah often can just split lanes or be competitive, in this lane in particular, he needs to pressure the Hecarim. He needs to pick up the Frozen Mallets and Black Cleavers of the world to shut down Hecarim in lane. If he doesn't do that, if he just goes and splits farm with the Hecarim, that's a big misplay from the Nah. It's going to be Sunfire Nah. This is what Flame did and allowed a Hecarim to run wild. I worry that Loop will be able to too.
Me too, as Spirit's going to come into the mid lane now. Shie going to try and line up an ulti. Dade goes in, Cleanse moves through. That's a flash out there. Does not want to get Shockwave, but Dade still running away. Does get to the speed shrine, but it is not owned by his team by the looks of things. Spirit going to move in now as well, and no kill just yet.
It was a red speed shrine, so it was happy days for him to get onto it. That was the nice defensive run in. Conan's going quite aggressive. Once again, Spirit over the wall.
Yeah, Hook though lands, but Hook counter lands there as well. Love City forced to flash out. Teleport now coming in as well onto the Rek'Sai tunnel, but maybe a bit too ambitious there for Aluka as he does cancel it.
Yeah, and also lives the heal just enough health for Love City to come through from the trade. Passive start for Master3, but they're not being punished. You can't blame Spirit for trying, but it hasn't come together in terms of a successful gank. And the result, it's only a 4 CS advantage to Condi, so not really being punished in the farm area either.
I mean, I think 2 of his 3 lanes going even is fine, and Spirit is trying to apply appropriate pressure, so he's sort of playing like we expect, but Dade and Condi going to move in for pressure. Mystic a little too far forward. Lantern goes in. Amazing body slam there for Condi after the flash, but Spirit's down here as well. Box lance for Conan. Spirit is back. Gets the Unborrow. Condi could be first blood and is there to Mystic, and Spirit still chasing. Needs to land the Pro Seeker. Flay auto, though, going to take out Siva.
Big turnaround against Master3. They thought they were being clever, going for the re-engage. Dade never actually went back to shop after being chunked out, chugged all the potions. but still came in low. They overextended. The tether broke onto Lucian, which removed any kill pressure, and Spirit in the right place at the right time, finally, after 8 minutes.
Dade now trying to go into the mid lane, but loses the trade almost instantly. Shockwave lands in, does get onto Dade. Xie, no mana though, can't exert any more pressure.
But Dade, smart to note, it's not Ignite Orianna, it's Cleanse Orianna. Kill pressure very, very low, even with more mana, and he can keep going.
He actually lands another chain there. Blue buff, plenty of mana coming through. Dade needs to trade a couple more auto. Xie though gets ignited, flushes away. Dade wants to go back in. The barrier might be enough. Dade needs one more auto attack, but he can't quite find it. That was impressive, but doesn't quite get the chain.
It wasn't confident to keep going, but the fight continues.
Well, Spirit's coming in, but Condi, good timing. Love CD as well. Gonna land the ulti there into Spirit. Hook will follow through. Kill will land in, and Dade collects it.
Acutely, they can even pass it over to Dade. So Spirit, just as greedy as Master3 were in the bottom lane, is punished. Kill score still benefiting WE, but Master3 gets something to stay in the game.
And I think that was one of the big things that happened to Dade last split that is not apparent anymore. His team would not give him kills in the spring split. Now all of a sudden, making sure to leave the kill stream, making sure they get ahead, because they've recognized Dade, when he gets an advantage, he's still that strong, just godlike player that we know from, last year in Korea and years before that.
We can't guarantee that Condi's on the same wavelength, but Love CD has definitely recognized the error in his ways and passes over that kill. LeBlanc especially is the one that needs to get going. It's still going to be the Athene's build, so respecting the counterburst from Orianna and the fact that there's some magic damage latently on this team. So going for the more safe choice, but it means great spell rotations and excellent mana sustain.
Yep, safety in the top lane as well. Good spell shield there from SMLZ. Keeps himself safe from the thresh hook, but Aluka ahead in farm against Lupa, but not in a landslide as Lupa's gone back and he's got his Skirmisher's Saber and the Cinder, so going to combine them soon to make that Cinder Hulk, but they're both farming away, and as you already said, Papa, that benefits Lupa massively in this situation.
Farm-wise, absolutely. They're ahead, World Elite. You'd expect that with the strength of the lanes they've picked, but it's still very competitive. 10 CS or less in the top lane. Dade hasn't been able to get the early kill, so is falling behind against Orianna. Unfortunately, this matchup only gets better and better for Orianna, so we expect that CS advantage to grow for the Orianna. Lucian is, again, a good laning choice against Sivir, so 15 CS in bottom, but it's touching distance. That's all Master3 really could hope for after the champion select came through.
And it's just a matter of what can they make happen in the mid-game stages of the game. Dragon up and has not been taken or even looked at by either team at this stage. A lot of farming is happening, even between the junglers as well. In fact, it's 41 to 35, so Spirit catching up slightly as well. You can tell Dade wants to apply some pressure, but all the other lanes are sort of sitting there waiting for Hecarim to get stronger, waiting for something to happen.
And you might be tempted to say, okay, that really benefits World Elite, because in the late game, Orianna going to be usually a better team fight than LeBlanc, but you have to consider the fact that Lupa is playing this Hecarim. Of course, the Onslaught of Shadows, the Terrifiers may be under-talked about, but can be very, very powerful as multiple members of World Elite looking for any excuse to dive in bot. And then also the Gragas ultimate explosive cast. There's a lot of displacement and separating up of a team fight. A skirmish champion like Dade on this Lupa can actually excel if they get a pick onto either Orianna or Lucian. The damage falls so fast for World Elite when one of these members go down. So if they can be on point with their two displacement CCs in the late game, that's the explosive cast and the Onslaught of Shadows, get that pick on a critical member, suddenly World Elite will be straining for damage, and there is hope in late game fights for M3.
And it's not to say that doesn't translate well now, as Condi gets the Scuttle Crab and some nice pressure down onto Spirit. Going to collapse the tunnels there as well, as Aluka bullies out Lupa just enough to take the turret here. Going to make sure it kills the maximum amount of minions before it does, but it's not quite a bully from Aluka, but it's about as close as it gets for this player.
Absolutely. He's taken the turret, but maybe that will just open up more room for Lupa to farm, and potentially there will be gank routes for Condi to go into even the very slippery Nara in the top lane. Just returning to the whole Orianna LeBlanc discussion. It's just one of those situations where Orianna definitely outscales LeBlanc in most situations. It's just uniquely with all the team fight reset being available from Master3, it's not that situation where, okay, it's late game, Orianna's better than LeBlanc, therefore World Elite wins. There is scenarios where Master3 can get a semblance of outplay and still make this comp work in the late game.
Yeah, and SMLZ leaving the wave here in the bottom side, actually just trying to hold some CS away. Condi doing the same with the blue buff, going to make sure Dade can pick it up and complement his Athenes. We'll be able to get the blue walks over and just distort on top of it. But again, M3, we called them assertive in last week, but they're not in any rush to get some objectives. Seems like Xie is the one they want as Dade dives in, going to go for the chains. Needs to cleanse up, but Xie does, maybe a little late. ult, though, a little too far forward, and the ball's going to keep them back.
It was a bit of a lazy ultimate from Conde. I think the flash ult was definitely required to get the bounce towards the team. Maybe just respecting the fact that it'll be counter-flashed by Jia, but that's a great flash trade. A high-mobility champion like Gragas swapping his flash for Orianna's in particular opens up a lot of kill potential for Dade, but just kind of lazily throws out the casket, bounces him towards the turret. There could have been a lot more in that gank for Master3, so I'm disappointed from the lack of really decisive play from Condi.
And Spirit back in the bottom side again, looking to dive, but does give it up here as Dade's on the prowl. Spirit does borrow, has to back off, but Dade doesn't want to challenge anyone at this stage with World Elite roaming up. And finally, they'll start off the first big bit of action here. 14 minutes in, and our first dragon starts.
With Orion having lane control over LeBlanc, it's much safer to pick up these dragons. It's only if LeBlanc had kill pressure in mid that dragon would have been realistic for Master3 to contest. Gragas is kind of around the area, but honestly only really looking for a timer. They're going to see the Scuttle Crab vision and do that anyway. Aluka, though.
Yeah, doesn't have his ulti as Aluka. Going to now run away from Lupa, who's looking to dive with his Saber. It's a bit too deep, though. Lupa will go down, and Aluka gifted a kill. Dade going to jump in over. Megan are not quite happening as Dade. He can't see him. He takes a long way around, and Aluka's going to be home scot-free.
So what the hell was Lupa doing?
I don't know.
He just took 4 turret hits and died.
He did? Yes, that's, I mean,
that's just
you
awful.
explained it to the viewers. I mean, it's not great. As Dade tries to get away from Spirit, distorts back almost into an Umburrow, actually, but Gia is going to keep the pressure up. And World Elite, it's small things here with just a dragon here, now getting a couple kills and the turret that Aluka took as well, but it's starting to pile on advantages. And again, to have a calm early to mid-game where they're able to get at least a small lead like they have here, that's a win for World Elite in the early stages.
But an individual misplace now really compounding the loss in top lane. This is not a Nab building Black Cleaver or any semblance of damage. In fact, it's gone Randuin. Barmy Cinder into Randuin, going full team fight build and getting a solo kill just from a huge misplay from Lupa. That should not happen at this high level competitive play. And Lupa, he's going to hope for just a lot of time to collect his thoughts, maybe just to quieten down the shouting from his teammates, pick up some items and be teamfight relevant in the late game, because he's certainly messed up this early game for M3.
And that's been possibly the oddest thing for me watching Lupa as a player in the LPL. His performance seems to rubber band like almost no one else. He's playing the meta champions, he's completely on, he understands every interaction, his teleport's ready to go, and he just plays like the Lupa we know and love. But times like this, when he dives the tower under a Gnar, gives up a kill, lets Aluka gives his Randuins, you wonder, where's the Lupa that's supposed to be here in this team?
I mean, he flatters to deceive a lot. You look back at Worlds, and he was really overperforming, and he did a lot of strange things, like just throwing out the Akali pick and doing Exa on that, bringing in the new meta champs and being successful. He tried that in spring, but the non-meta did not work for him. The anti-top, of course, multiple times, multiple failures coming out of that champ. Maybe it's time to just rubber band and try that out again, but Hecarim has always been his standby. He's been very consistent on this champion. That's why it's so surprising to see such an epic facepalm moment like what we just saw.
He's actually pretty significantly behind in CS as well, so taking what's not a great lane matchup and making it a bit worse with that misdive. But 4 members of M3 have committed to this gank, and World Elite know exactly what's going on, despite not having too much vision.
I mean, Nas pinging miss, basically, just with the question marks on this minimap. They know exactly what's likely to be happening. No reason to overextend in bot when you're already winning in CS. Just, let that Avarice Blade that you've got as a snowball give you that GP10 and just be happy that everything's going to plan for World Elite. Because honestly, first 4 games, that did not happen for this team. Finally, some semblance of control in the early game.
Yeah, Hook does get spell shooted again, but Conan able to bait that out. Spirit waiting off in the wing, sitting on top of a pink ward, wants to try and get some damage down, but unfortunately without the Thresh Hook, not very many engage options here in Spirit. Without a good angle to dive in and burrow down, can't really find anything in this bottom lane.
So we all know that Dade was watching that particular duel in top and face palming. So he's done a very Dade thing. It's Medjai's time already. You wouldn't think this game was as one-sided, because we all know that Dade does not build Medjai's when he's winning, often when he's losing. I don't know if it's really panic stations given the fact they have the late game Sivir Hecarim duo, but Medjai's is the answer from Dade.
Yeah, 4,000 gold behind for M3 is actually a pretty massive deficit here in this game, given that they're falling behind in objectives as well. But it's everyone's favorite LPL game show back for another season. Bubba Smithy, Do or Dade has returned.
Dade. I mean, you get 5 stacks, so, he's got 5 stacks already. He's really trying to make the roaming work, but he's got no turret. There's no need to cover the turret because the turret's already down. Very suspicious that LeBlanc isn't around mid, and both Conan, Mystic, and Aluka are happy to get pushed in and have relative safety in their lanes.
And again, all the safety from World Elite, some very straight standard drafting and some nice controlled play leads them to a nice lead here. Lupa's little misplay aside there, they've just played very solid. Even Spirit, who's been looking for ganks but not overreaching for them, just making sure he's there to apply appropriate pressure. Not from Woodlit's doing anything crazy, and it's led them to, again, the same team that we saw start to pick up wins late in the spring.
You can see the exasperation on Master3 with the likes of the Magi's. They feel like they need to make something happen. I'm not so sure that it's quite as dire as Dade is necessarily building towards, but you can see through comms that they're thinking, we need to get ahead now or we're going to get outscaled. It's not quite as linear as that, but when the team's convinced of that, they're going to make these over-aggressive moves, and the result is losing a couple of waves of farm in the mid lane. It's missing out on minions. It's snowballing yourself further behind, and often, honestly, it's a bit of a confirmation bias where you're making it worse for yourself just by thinking the situation's more dire than it actually is.
Well, I mean, they can't see what we can see as far as gold goes, so maybe you're right, but Waddley are going to go back and shop Static Shiv actually now done for Mystic, so very quick clip on those two items. Both done in under 20 minutes means that this Dragon coming up in a minute's time is going to be a very nice fight point for Waddley. Lockett done for Spirit as well. She is going to need to see large order. Luca actually massive at this stage on the tank now. Cinder, Randuin's, and the Mercury Treads all done. Waddley are ready to fight.
Master3 are not. They don't have the items for it. They've gone for the snowball choice and not done any snowballing. And honestly, look at the tunnels and pink wards around this Dragon. Master3 have no business fighting. It will be a mistake to fight, but then you again fall behind further and further. Master3 playing from behind is not necessarily something that we've been convinced by. Honestly, they've had a commanding lead in a lot of their games, specifically in the mid lane. So seeing Dade 30 CS behind and with no realistic kill pressure, that's a new thing for Master3 to have to deal with in the summer split.
And he's looking again down in the bottom side for a couple more picks, but doesn't find it. Dade now in the mid lane, actually going to get sandwiched in by Spirit and Shie. Oriana looking to line up the ulti, but can't quite find the ball spot, and Dragon up in 5 seconds. Perfect vision control for Waddley in the area, and there's just nothing M3 can do for this second.
And it's a weird thing, but honestly, the Magi's tips the hand a bit further. You're like, okay, you just want to leave lane and pick up kills. It's an alarm bell for both sides on what to do, and he's just being predictable in his aggression, and predictable aggression compared to controlled aggression. Waddley's showing the controlled side, and they're just piling on the advantages.
And predictable might be the best way to describe Dade's disadvantage as a player. His champion pool has always been described as shallow. His play maybe can be described the same at some points, especially when he doesn't quite understand the champion, to the same level of champions that he's mastered. When Dade looks predictable, it's easy for any team to navigate around him, and so far Waddley 2-0 up in Dragons, 3-0 up in Turrets, and 3-1 up in kills. That gold lead's not getting any smaller, and the Magi's not getting any stacks.
And Hecarim's not going to be getting any damage onto this top turret. It's super, super healthy with the Balmy Cinder. Going to have some semblance of wave control. Of course, Mega Gnar transformation also with that AoE wave clear. Dade, without a big needless large rod item that he could have instead, doesn't have instant wave clear, going for kill pressure, but she is already super tanky with the Athenes and even the double Dorans for that slight little extra 60 health. Honestly, this game is just quiet times, and Waddley very happy with the speed.
They are indeed. You can see Luca going to bully Lupa just a bit here, but keeps the CS as comfortable as he can make it. Going to keep his turret healthy as well, as Lupa's going to go back and probably pick up a Phage. So moving into that Trinity Force, probably realizes that he does have to try and carry them through the mid stages of this game. Dade does have a need to see large rod. Frozen Heart being completed for Condi, and the Infinity Edge has been done for SMLZ for a short while as he moves in towards, I think, what looks like a Zeal of some kind. I don't quite know what the longsword's for. It was a bit of an emergency longsword.
Probably a bit of power. I guess you could be... It looks like it's halfway between Yomu's Ghost Blade and Static Shiv with this build, with the Brawler's Glove and the itemization. So pretty flexible. Maybe just the Vamp Scepter to go along with a Zeal. There's a lot of options, of course. 80 items building out a longsword. Whether it's early game or late game, a lot of options coming through. Master3, honestly, at this point, feel like they almost need to go back to that EDG playbook. Feels like the only way they can get into this game is getting one of those Barons. They've played very well around Baron. They're in no way in a situation right now to set up a Baron, but perhaps that's the win condition for Master3. They have good pick potential between the chains, the double displacement ultimates that Lupa and Condi have. Set up around Baron, get that decisive Baron that won you games in week 1, and just try and snowball that into a lead.
Oh, Luca gets knocked up there, but ulti does not land for Condi as Conan is ready with a quick lantern. And again, it's just control here for World Elite, and M3 are sort of running around like headless chicken. Spirit, we talk about Rek'Sai and how good she is at controlling the map, and Spirit, when he's back on these sorts of junglers, the likes of Rek'Sai, the likes of Nunu, pretty much what's happening to Condi starts to happen. They just get stifled out of a game.
But Condi's such such a wizard on the Lee Sin. It's weird to see him just throwing explosive cast lazily and just getting nothing done whatsoever with such a powerful ultimate. Gragas jungle has finally allowed us to encapsulate the ultimate as a displacement ability rather than just the burst ultimate that AP Gragas used for many a year. And we've seen so many great uses of that ability, none of them in this game.
No, when Lee Sin's an early pressure jungler, Gragas is too. It's not like Condi is playing a significantly different... Exactly. It's not like he's playing a significantly different champion. We saw his flash body slams to try and get the double in the bottom lane early on. So Condi's got the ability, but all of M3 just feel like... It feels like their heart's not in this game, to be honest. There's just, they've fallen behind. It feels like they don't...
I don't understand what's happened. It's maybe everyone was watching the screen top, saw the death from Lupa, and like, oh dear, it's over.
Maybe, I mean, everyone just kind of feeling Lupa's pain there as Spirit. Going to get on top of this blue buff. What Elite looking to fight them over the normal buffs in the jungle now. And M3, again, pack up and leave. They want nothing to do with this team.
And they're the one that has the Hecarim. So they're the ones with the Hecarim LeBlanc. They have the pick power. Hecarim's being forced to stay in lane. Luca's not even building for lane domination and is up 33 CS. Lupa, he'll eventually get some big items, but they seem far away, and Dade's going for a roam. It's predictable, but can they actually get something out
Luka
of it?
used his ulti. Good flash from Luka to keep him out from under the onslaught of shadows.
He's so tanky already.
Yeah, the answer to the other question for Dade, no. Cannot get a successful roam. Actually might just get roamed on here as Spirit comes in, gets shielded, but good ward there and a nice chain would keep him away. But Mystic's now rotated into the middle lane. Condi actually in a good position to get him here. Ultimate's ready to go. Good flash throw from Mystic, boosts him out of the way. Gonna turn around onto the Carling as Spirit riding in with the ball. Might look for an opportunity to wombo in, but instead World Elite's gonna start pushing.
It was better from Condi. You draw out a flash from the AD carry. You've got the Frozen Heart, so already quite a lot of cooldown reduction. Dade goes for something.
Yep, what's the Magi stacks here? Condi going to launch his way back in there. Xie going to get ulted up by Nautilus. Box used from Conan, though, to disengage. And Lupa has his teleport, but no ultimate. Not useful to jump back in and engage. Lupa
also going the tankier route, so burst damage definitely not going to be seen from honestly either the mid laner or the top lane at this point. Obviously a decent amount of items on Dade, but the 1400 gold is put towards Medjai's, holding back his build compared to the death cap already completed from GF for both offensive and defensive utility.
There's the first kill, double shockwave coming in there, gets a second, Sivers down, Hecarim will fall as well. Dade's diving in, but just going to lose a couple stacks there. Maybe Prey Seeker, yes, we'll take him out. So 3 kills there for nothing. Tier 2 turret down as well, and Water Lead just taken over. M3 just kind of fell over and died in this game.
Luca's super tanky, and you're right, that's the worrying thing about Master 3 is suddenly we're seeing the Master 3 of the Spring Split rolling over and dying. Not usually the sign of a great top team. 3-1, you might have been cheating them or thinking that Master 3 might be that this season, but again, this is unfortunately a familiar thing for Master 3. Basically no ideas after the early game didn't go their way.
And look, if all World Elite have to fix is just maybe some draft issues and some team comp issues, that's good news for them here. They haven't, like, not to discredit their play, they've played great here in this game, but no one had to do anything, you know, overly special. Spirit didn't have to hard carry. Mystic didn't have to go off on a hyper carry. Just really sound, solid, fundamental play. World Elite really refreshing themselves after a very devastating week number 1. And coming back into this series, looks like they'll pick up a win here against M3 for at least their first game of the weekend. And things looking good finally once again.
Yeah, they picked an early power spiking comp with a good ganking jungler, understood their win conditions, played to them, had to do nothing out of the ordinary. In fact, it was Master 3 that felt over-pressured and led to some awkward play, especially from this man, Lupa, on your screen. And exactly, they played to their win conditions consistently, safely, conservatively, and won the game. We're going to see a replay of this back. Look at the damage that Shockwave with Death Cap does. There it is, burst down. SMLZ. Lupa's just not tanky at this point, dies as well. It's a very one-sided fight. The gold lead already getting towards the 8,000 range. And everything really looking great for World Elite.
They're still sitting at about 8k ahead here for World Elite, but Dragon is back up. That'll be their third. Luka still defending his turret. No turrets at all for M3 in this particular game. Dade working on a death cap, but would have been finished if he didn't have that Magi's, and only has Boots 1 coming through there as well. She has gone back. Aether Wisp is done. Sork Shoes have been completed. Mystic's got 3.5 items. Double Randu and Alacrity and Chat for Luka. The list goes on here for World Elite as far as their shopping spree is concerned. And M3 going to walk through their own jungle. Love City going to get hooked up. There's Xie going to look for a kill. Culling falls out. Shockwave does miss there, so Love City will survive. But honestly, a couple of missed ultimates, not even skin off their back.
And the minion waves are pushing in well for them as well. They pick up one in the bottom. Going to take another outer turret. Of course, have the super minion time pushing in mid. It's close to the perfect game, Pastry Time, and after 4 losses, that's music to Team World Elite's fans ears.
It is, and again, it's nothing overly special from World Elite, just solid fundamental play.
That's more than they could show in Week 1.
True, week 1 was not good for them as Chie does get ulted there by Condi, but World Elite again staying safe. Orianna at this point, so good at protecting any carries, and that ultimate not up yet, but plenty of zoning available with the Dissonance as well. Love City gonna ride his way in. Dade gets scooped back there by Aluka. Conan comes in with a flay. SMLZ though will get the first kill. Shie pops his cleanser as Aluka's trying to get some rage built up. Dade diving into the back. He's gonna get another kill there out onto Mystic. Finds his way to safety as well. And M3 at the latest time answer back.
World Elite didn't have the shockwave, didn't need to respect that cooldown Master3, and they got the picks and got out. So 2 kills, buys them a bit of time. Still a big gold lead, 3 dragons. A lot of factors working for World Elite, but that's still something for Master3 to at least buy 3-4 minutes of farm onto these late game carries like Lupa.
And you know what? Couple of stacks for Dade. Finishes up his death cap. Amplifying Tome now coming in. Spirit actually coming back aggressively. Wants the blue buff out to give to Chie. So goes back to his tunnel there to donate that over to Orianna and steal it away from M3. But Lupa still needs to get stronger. Dade at a decent point, but needs to find his good angles into the team fight. I think World Elite might look for a Baron here, and M3 just going to have to continue playing reactively.
But that emergency Magi's holding back the build. Realistically could have a Blasting Wand, Sorcerer's Shoes, maybe even that Amp Tome as well at this same clip. It's only 6 stacks in the Magi, so basically an assist more than what he bought when he originally got it. Of course, died subsequently and lost some stacks. So the items and the gold lead is probably bigger than what's already indicated in 7,000. Loop is being trained upon by a couple of members, and only Gragas to relieve pressure.
Yeah, Spirit's here as well. Lupa no ulti, flay there back from Conan. Condi going to try and save him, but Lupa's just getting tossed around, and Spirit, he'll get that kill.
A bit of an I'm helping ultimate as well coming through from Condi, so they get the kill. Baron's the next objective to pick up. They don't have wonderful Baron damage, though, especially with Aluka not building any offensive items whatsoever. They got the pick.
Yeah, Condi now the next pick there. Shockwave flashed out of, though. Good flash coming through for Condi, but World Elite, they'll continue their pressure. And Dade looking for the biggest flank of his career.
In the bottom lane, Minion Wave, I believe, does pick up the first turret of the game, but they're going to answer it with an inner turret here. World Elite have nothing to respect with Lupa down. Lupa doesn't even have the Home Guard enchant, so in 10 seconds has teleport, but doesn't have that surprise burst from the Home Guard. And they're trying to pick up Dade, who's just probably too maneuverable to realistically come down.
Yeah, I mean, Dade's been off to the side looking for a pick, but hasn't found anything he likes so far. Smite, though, from Spirit, yeah, does slow him down. Distorts away there. Spirit's going to chase in. Good distort back. Forced to flash out as well. Luca just going to dive into the team. Conan gets a double flay. Ball position last year. Luca building up rage. Love City's dead as Conan takes him out. Condi going to get slowed down here as well as Mystic's going to flash to chase him on. That's going to be another kill. Ultimate not helping there for Gragas, and 2-0 once again for World Elite.
No cohesion and no team play from Master3. First, Dade gets cute and eventually gets caught. Love CD, the only person to necessarily die, but then they get another pick onto Condi. No Baron Vision, no Smite available. Lupa has his. Can he go for the redemption story?
Oh, Dade gets hooked there. Shockwave lands in. Not quite the spot they wanted, but Chie actually did get the kill onto Dade, so manages to make it work. They'll zone out Lupa. Very smart from the rest of World Elite. He ultis in, though. The Baron's actually not going to get taken out. They'll take Lupa instead, go back to the Baron and make sure to secure it.
Yeah, good Baron play there. Understand they had to back away. Lupa's still going to be higher level than Spirit. Getting the pick on SMLZ, looking for the hyper proc here, Luca.
Oop, doesn't quite get it. Actually, going into Mega Knight form might have been the problem, so actually transforms and takes the Lantern. Gonna go back. Yep, there we go. Goes back now. Manages to recall back to base. SMLZ will get his red buff as a result, but World Elite about to do a big shopping trip, and probably their last push of this first game.
If it wasn't for this huge minion wave pushing in from M3, probably would have tried to contest that red buff, but gave it up. A lot of guaranteed farm to be picked up in the bottom lane. These gold values tell you the story you need to know. 3,000 gold between the AD carries, 2,000 gold in the top lane. Basically everyone uniformly ahead 2,000 to 3,000 gold, and the gold lead being so evenly shared means there's just no one for M3 to pick, because it's not like they have a low gold support that's squishy that they can take down. Even Thresh is doing just fine this game.
And I think Aluka, for me, might be one of the biggest surprises of this game. Again, Lupa's very curious tower diver side, which I assume he was looking good for a 1v1 and just kind of overreached himself in a silly situation. But Aluka is not known as a bully player, and I'm not going to say he's done a good job of bullying Lupa here, but he's consistently stayed ahead, looks solid on the Gnar, if not remarkable, and that's all Luka needs to do. And if he can do it on a champion like Gnar, especially if he can start to get better at the champion and learn the intricacies and learn sort of the little things about it, Aluka's going to become, you know, your quintessential tank player, and all of a sudden, a real threat who still plays these big tanks.
I just don't know if you want to keep getting to the situation where you need to pressure and you have Aluka to do it. Seeing an engage from Spirit.
She in trouble, actually. Lupa diving in there, takes out the kill. Actually might look to fight here. Is that someone who's going to jump in as well? Conan going to get a little too low. Condi diving in onto Mystic, but where's Dade? He's off to the side. He's already a little too low. Spirit, though, going to look the same here as Aluka dives in. Gets 2 kills there, makes it a double. Might be a triple here onto Love CD as well. And that's 4 kills for 1 there for Wadley, and Dade off to the side with no health and no hope.
Yeah, it was looking like it might be a decent fight for Master if they got the first pick onto Orianna. Unfortunately, the rest of the damage was chunked out. Dade is almost going to die to a tank minion.
Yep, Spirit coming through. Dade trying to bait him in. Wants the kill, but Spirit just knocks him up after the distortion. Wadley going to take the ace and the first game here and finally get themselves on the board for the summer split.
Don't often expect outplay potential to come from a Rek'Sai onto LeBlanc, but managed to do in that situation. Good, solid performance from World Elite. In last season, if we'd seen that performance, we would have said, okay, solid victory, just more of the same from World Elite. But the fact that they came into this game 0-4 shows their fans that they can play these grindy, smart, well-rotated games and win without too many risks being taken. It didn't require, the first victory of their season didn't require a hard carry from the likes of Blue Ezreal. It just required solid team fight, and that's more the sign of a top team that was just out of form in week 1, had the week's break to really work on their strategies. Really, their out-of-game strategy seemed to be what was really refined, and Master 3, strategy in-game and out-game, definitely a bit shaky, specifically Lupa. I'll just answer your question. You were talking a bit about picking this Gnar for Aluka. I think the trap you fall into is that a better played Gnar game, I'm not going to say a better Gnar, because a better played Hecarim game, sorry, and I'm not saying that Lupa's a bad Hecarim player. On another day, maybe even today in a best of 5, we saw that matchup happen more often. I feel like Lupa would have done more work. But after the misplay, it just made the Gnar look even better. And even though he hadn't gone for that lane pressuring build, you just feel like if you keep picking this situation, Gnar versus Hecarim, on a player like Aluka, who isn't going to be the Black Cleaver, Frozen Mallet, Zatai approach to the lane, there's so much downside. There's so much potential that Hecarim takes over a game. So it's a risky trap to put yourself into, but this game, it worked just fine.
It did look great for World Elite, and M3, unfortunately, another episode of Do or Dade goes by, and M3 find themselves down a game in the best of 2. Don't go too far away, though, because game 2 between M3 and World Elite is coming right up.